What would you do if the person in charge of keeping your neighborhood safe was the same one quietly stealing from it, and every polite complaint got bounced back like it was your fault, and the only way to prove it was setting a trap? No one would ever forget. That's the spot I landed in when I moved to Maple Ridge, Virginia, a tidy little gated community with a brochure, smile, and a clipboard soul. I came for peace, you know what I mean? Crickets at night, sprinklers at dawn. Not drama, not headlines, just a front porch and a shot at quiet. Week 1. A package vanished, annoying, but fine, mistakes happen. Week 2, another one gone. I had the delivery photo on my phone, the box sitting at my door at 2:14 p.m. by Fieva. It was a ghost. Week 3, same pattern, and I felt that old feeling in my chest, the one you get when you realize someone thinks you won't push back. I started walking the loop at dusk, learning faces pacing out the rhythm of the street. And that's when I clocked her for real. Martha Whitcomb, our HOA president, crisp blouse pearls that caught the sun clipboard, tucked like a badge. She moved house to house with a smile that never touched her eyes, scribbling notes, pointing at shrubs, measuring mailboxes with her gaze. And when she stopped on my lawn to squint at my shutters, she said, all pleasant and sharp, "Mr. Cole, our guidelines call for a more muted sage." Yours reads, assertive. I asked that a suggestion or a fine, and she tilted her head like a metronome and said, "It can be both. I'm not quick to accuse." So I started with neighbors. Pete across the street, retired mechanic always washing a driveway that never looks dirty, leaned on his broom and told me low like we were trading spy notes. You didn't hear it from me, but Martha's been safeguarding boxes for years. They go in her garage and somehow never make it back. Then, Nora, second-grade teacher with a kind face and a backbone, said her gardening tools disappeared last spring. She asked the HOA to check the cameras, and the follow-up never came. So I mounted a porch. Cam, nothing fancy, just an app and a lens. And the next time a package vanished, I pulled the footage and found a perfect slice of nothing. The way my porch column casts a blind spot, the way someone could slip in sideways and slide out clean, like they knew the angles better than me. Yeah, that happened. I wrote the HOA a clean, respectful email. Dates tracking numbers, the photo timestamps. And in under an hour, Martha replied with the kind of sentence that makes you grind your teeth quiet. The HOA is not liable for personal property. We recommend installing cameras and being present for deliveries. Cameras I had being home at 2:14 on a Tuesday. I did not. I tried talking to her in person, out by her perfect roses, told her if there's a theft problem, it should be on the agenda. Without looking up, she said, "Theft is a police matter. Also, please keep your hedges under 24 inches, then lifted her eyes just enough to add, "Be careful with accusations. Defamation is a violation too." It wasn't what she said, it was the velvet glove around the knuckles. So I filed a police report. Officer Tran came by. Solid guy took notes, nodded at my frustration, and said it straight. Without a shot of someone taking the box, we've got nothing. Best bet, set a decoy, catch them on camera. Simple, sensible, fair. At the next HOA meeting, I tried one more time. Martha ran through paint palettes and trash can times, then opened the floor. I stood and asked if we could at least discuss the missing deliveries, maybe add a camera at the entrance. She stared over my shoulder like she was reading a sign behind me and said, "Security enhancements are not a budget priority. Theft is not under our jurisdiction." The room went quiet in that way rooms do when everyone has a story, but no one wants to be the first nail. I sat down feeling the heat crawl up my neck and decided I was done asking permission from a system that was allergic to the truth. I thought about those glitter bomb videos for about 10 minutes. then remembered the skunk that sprayed behind my garage 2 weeks earlier, how that smell clung to metal and memory, and a wild little thought clicked into place. If the person who keeps safeguarding boxes happens to safeguard this one, she'll be the one explaining to the neighborhood why her garage smells like a dare. I drove out to a feed store, bought a humane live trap, baited it with a stripe of peanut butter like I was laying down a boundary, and by morning I had a black and white ball of warning stripes peering at me, like, "Really, man?" I whispered an apology he didn't understand, slid the trap into a sturdy box, cut air holes, patted the bottom, taped it shut, and wrote, "Fragile, handle with care on top, because sometimes you have to let irony do a little work." At 2:47 p.m., I set the decoy on my porch in full view of the camera, then sat by the window with a book I didn't read. Maple Ridge hummed, sprinklers ticking a dog arguing with a chew toy, sun laying long stripes on the pavement, and at 3:02 the clubhouse door across the green swung open. Here came Martha marching our loop with that little clip to her step, tapping notes, scanning porches, pretending to check address numbers. Then her eyes paused on my box. She looked left, looked right, smoothed her blouse, stepped onto my path, and called loud and official, "Evening, Mr. Cole," never turning her head. "Evening," I said casual, like I wasn't holding my breath. She leaned, scooped the box like it had her name on it, and power-walked it into her garage. I didn't see it. I heard it. The metallic scrape. The honest scream. Then the smell rolled out across the cul-de-sac like a fog you could taste. I clapped a hand over my mouth and laughed into my palm, because sometimes pressure only has one exit. Doors cracked. Neighbors peered out. Pete pinched his nose and said, "Whew, somebody made a bad decision," and Nora fanned the air with a school folder. The garage door shuttered up, and there stood Martha. Eyes watering, blouse freckled clipboard on the floor like an abandoned crown. She pointed at me across the street and snapped, "This is harassment. This is criminal." I stepped onto my porch as calm as I could manage. "Everything okay?" Ms. Whitcomb and Pete. Bless him, couldn't help himself, funny. "I thought the HOA doesn't do theft. So why were you opening someone else's package?" And the looks on a couple faces said what no one needed to say out loud. Power shifted an inch, then a foot. Next morning, there was an envelope in my mailbox. Hedge height violation, $150. And by dinner, other folks had matching paper Nora for a recycling bin, visible for 18 minutes. Pete for cracks in concrete that was born cracked. That's the part petty power never learns. Fear works until it doesn't. The fines didn't make us quiet. They made us loud together. We dragged lawn chairs into my driveway like a town hall. With no microphone, stacked our stories, compared notes, and a pattern snapped into focus you could not unsee. Carmen Ortiz pulled up an email where Martha told her the color of her curtains disrupted visual harmony. Kylie and Trevor admitted they paid a paint fine the week they moved in because they didn't want trouble. And somebody said, "What we were all thinking. We're getting played." We passed a petition for a special session and a no-confidence vote, and pens hit paper faster than I expected. Martha blasted an email calling it a smear campaign, and me, combative, said the skunk proved I was reckless. Said she'd been protecting the community. Protecting. There's that word again. The special session was standing room only, the kind of quiet charged with "I have something to say" energy. Martha sat up front, with the bored, perfect posture, perfect hair, except for the faint smell that no detergent had managed to kill. She banged her little gavel and said, "Chin high." An animal was deliberately placed in a package on Mr. Cole's porch. This endangers our community and undermines trust. I stood and told the part you can't pretty up. Trust isn't a speech. It's what you do when no one's watching. If there wasn't a habit of taking boxes that weren't yours, there wouldn't have been a chance for an animal to end up in your garage. She said I was accusing her without proof, and I said, I watched you lift it and walk it home, and also I'm not the only one with a story. Nora went first, voice gentle, but steady. Pete went second. Gravel, honest. Carmen read her fine, and the room laughed at the absurdity, not at her, at the cage we'd all been living in. The more people spoke, the straighter everyone sat. We voted, and it wasn't close. Martha gathered her papers, with trembling hands stood and walked out without looking back. Life didn't turn cinematic after that. It turned normal, which felt like a win. Kids played tag in the cul-de-sac, folks waved without checking for a clipboard. And 2 Saturdays later, my new grill arrived, and the smoke smelled like pepper and second chances. People brought plates. Pete showed up with ribs, Nora with lemonade, and markers for the kids. Someone put on music low enough to talk over high enough to feel, and the neighborhood felt like it belonged to the people who actually lived there. If you're wondering whether I'd do it the same way, if the skunk was too far, if I should have kept stacking polite emails while the rules protected the person breaking them, I don't have a neat answer that fits on a magnet. I know this. Sometimes order without fairness is just a pretty cage. Sometimes the truth needs a little help getting out of its chair, and sometimes the person folks believe last has to do the thing no one forgets. You can call that reckless, you can call it a line crossed, or you can call it a neighborhood finally finding its voice. So tell me where you land. Did I do the right thing or go too far? What does justice look like when the rule book is being used like a shield? And have you ever lived under a petty badge or clipboard that dressed fear up as standards? Drop your take, tell your story. Argue with me if you want, and if this hit you anywhere in the chest. Subscribe and stick around because we tell it how it felt, not how it's supposed to sound.